to say Omar Gooding.
And we're live. What a welcome back. People are suddenly wondering, who's Omar Gooding and why are you talking about him? Well, we're not going to get into that. What we're going to get into is the 15-minute time limit. No sound effects because Gunner is not here. But
ding, ding,
this
ding,
week,
ding, ding, ding.
Wow, that was the worst thing ever. Please don't ever do that again. This week, we're going to be talking about John Cena versus Daniel Bryan and the rise of the new corporation. For those of you that saw SummerSlam and last night's Raw, John Cena and Daniel Bryan put on a hell of a match. In my opinion, it was almost match of the night. Almost. Punk Lesnar was a little bit better, but damn close. But what happened at the end, after Bryan beat Cena clean in the middle of the ring, something that almost never ever happens, Randy Orton came out and walked to the end of the ramp and was making like he was about to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then turned around to walk away. And when he got halfway back up the ramp, Orton turns around, and then Triple H, who was a special guest referee, pedigrees Bryan, and then Orton cashes in and takes the WWE Championship away from Daniel Bryan. I think it was something like 3 minutes. Bryan held the championship before he got screwed over. And then the next night on Raw, it was all planned out the whole time. So let's get into this.
321 seconds, and this has got to be the most talked about thing with Darren Young being number 2 and Ric Flair being number 3 this week. You have to realize that as far as all the smart fans or the smarks are concerned, this is a good thing because now that Cena's gone with his injury, Daniel Bryan is now the babyface of the corporation for the summer. But this is really ticking off a lot of the more hardcore, enthusiastic Daniel Bryan supporters because they want him to be the face of the corporation with the title instead of Blandy Borton. Yes, I said that, and I will say it again if prompted.
Yeah, that does pretty much cover it. And I will say I was the latter on the night of SummerSlam, but last night after Raw, I said, okay, I kind of like where they're going with this. At first, I really wasn't comfortable with that idea. I was like, couldn't they have at least given it to him for, I don't know, let's say he keeps the title until Hell in a Cell, drops the belt at that point to Randy Orton, who would cash in after Bryan had like a really brutal match, and then Bryan would be on the chase, say, until Rumble, or maybe even taking it out as far as Mania. That was sort of my alternate booking in my head. Of course, I'm very bad at alternate booking, so don't listen to me. But after I watched this and realized that the focus of Trips, Steph, and Vince is going to be Daniel Bryan, couldn't be better. Couldn't be better. I'm really pleased with this.
Now, you guys know, I'm always a very definitive person on this program. And I usually don't like to quote-unquote ride the fence, but, I see there are really two sides. There's a lot of potential for this thing, and it could be great and it could be awful, quite frankly, because the reality is the potential for this to really be another sort of reemergence of an Attitude Era idea where, here's Bryan and perhaps some other people, maybe Ziggler or Big Show, to fight against this sort of corporate entity, these, triad of McMahons who, want to do what's quote-unquote best for business. That could be something impressive. I don't know how fair it is to compare Bryan to Steve Austin, but he certainly has the support of the fans, and that's kind of the point. On the other hand, this is ultimately a McMahon storyline, and I do believe this is an Undertaker quote. If I'm wrong about that, go ahead and write into the show and give Yankum something to do. But I believe it's the Undertaker who says, the problem with McMahon family storylines is at the end of the day, ultimately, it's all about them. And that's kind of where I'm, worried about it, because they could easily kind of push Bryan, and even Orton for that matter, to the wayside and make this all about them. Right now they're united, but the rumors are that it's going to be Vince versus Triple H at WrestleMania, which is still, a good, 7, 8, 9 months away. And plus all these rumors that it could be Steve Austin in Vince's corner, which, let's hope that doesn't happen. But,
I had actually heard that it was going to be Steve Austin in Bryan's corner.
Oh, you think so?
That's what I'd heard.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, obviously this is very, very early, and obviously Bryan got beat down the way he did because it's so early, because they have to establish what they're doing here. But again, that's my worry, is that, this is ultimately going to be all about the McMahons rather than, the people who are kind of fighting around them. And that's kind of my concern.
I don't know. I don't see it that way. I mean, especially if you are going to compare it to a Steve Austin storyline. I find that this might actually be... How do I put this? I was actually talking about this last night. I think it actually is, in terms of you have a guy who people can relate to and put themselves in the shoes of, fighting against big money, big corp, big whatever. And, I mean, that was what Steve Austin was, and he was, at the time, the right guy for the moment. And at this time, I think Daniel Bryan... Whereas Steve Austin sort of represented the everyman or the Joe Sixpack kind of guy, I think Daniel Bryan sort of represents the little guy a little bit better, and I think that's far, far more relatable, especially sort of now in this day and age. It's just my personal theory on this. And I think they're putting a lot of faith in him. By having him as the focus of this. I know that the McMahons are also the focus of this, and it's probably going to turn into a thing where it's going to be Triple H kind of, vying for power with Vince, which I think it will probably end with Vince going away for a very long time. And somehow Bryan gets put over. I'm not exactly sure how yet, but I think that will be, sort of those two things will be the culmination of this at WrestleMania.
Well, I was reminded about a couple of things last night. Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, got his butt handed to him a lot of times before he eventually got his hands on the Four Horsemen or Ric Flair or whoever he was feuding with. So we might be in a horrible, horrible way in for more Bryan beatdowns in the future. And it was also came up on Woo on 420 Chan last night, which we all usually watch Ryan, that another idea floated around was the return of the Nexus. Daniel Bryan gets a bunch of his old running buddies together and goes in a direct war against whatever new corporation Triple H and Randy Orton put together, which would be fine by me. I will push that to the moon, because that, to me, sounds like a good idea, but, other people might not think, it's a retread.
I bet that's actually what Ric Flair was going to be there for. Maybe sort of a evolution kind of thing. And because of his little fuck up, he wasn't on TV.
I would be more than okay with like a corporate evolution thing. I gotta admit, Sunday night I was pretty depressed about the whole thing, but after Raw last night, I'm actually more than okay with this. I think it's got the potential to be a really good storyline. The problem is that WWE a lot of times has these storylines with this amazing potential, and then they take it and they want to love it, and they want to pet it, and they want to squeeze it, and they want to call it George, and then they fuck it all up. Just
and then they crushed a poor little baby bunny.
They just fuck it all up. And as long as they don't fuck it all up, I'm good with this. That's my only hope, is that they don't screw it up with bad storytelling, which is less of a possibility than B, they just kind of forget what they're doing and let it peter off and don't do anything with it.
Well, I think the other thing of it, that's kind of where it comes into play, that, it probably all going to culminate at WrestleMania, which they're already planning a year in advance again, which is fine, except for the fact that, again, we still have 7 months between now and WrestleMania. So there's the question of how do they keep this interesting for those 7 months? Does Bryan actually win the title in that time? Does Orton, beat him a couple times? Do we have a couple more screw jobs? People don't, even though it prolongs the story, there's a certain balance. People don't necessarily want to see Bryan getting beat up time after time after time. We don't want another Triple H McMahon power, reign of terror type thing,
That's why I kind of had my sort of alternate sort of little booking where I thought that they should have kept the belt on Bryan for a little bit longer, because I can't see Orton holding the belt for 7 months. And, I guess this doesn't matter because I'm going to assume they don't bother testing him, but he's got 2 wellnesses on him, and it's really interesting to put the title on him. Maybe they just
something else I forgot about.
Maybe they just kind of forget to test him occasionally, and he might be one of those sort of untouchable people. I think there are a few who are a bit above that policy, because it's not the law of the land. It's just their personal policy, and I think they can follow it or not follow it as they like.
Well, that's very true. They don't even have to not test him. They could just tell him when he's going to be tested, and he can be like, okay, well, I can be clean for that. There's all kinds of products out there to flush your system of all sorts of substances. I don't have a problem with Randy Orton, though. I mean, yeah, he's kind of a dick, but that's pretty much wrestlers, it seems like, or at least the really big name ones, except for Cena and a handful of others. But I don't know. I still like Randy Orton. Maybe I'm alone in that.
I think the real problem with Orton is for a while he was really the SmackDown Cena, and the problem with being the SmackDown Cena is you don't really get to do a whole lot except kind of win every once in a while. And
I always thought Sheamus was the SmackDown Cena.
Well, yeah, these days Orton's kind of been shoved to the side, which I think Orton makes a good heel. It's just
I think he's a really talented wrestler with a really boring promo style.
Yeah.
I just think he's slow and dull. And somebody must have told him, Jake the Snake, when he did promos, he could speak really slowly and really softly, and it made a real impact, and he just thought that he could do that too. No, you can't. You're terrible.
He always tries to be all serious and, kind of menacing, but it just doesn't really work that well.
No, I think there are some people that are good at that and some people that aren't. I think he is a natural sort of frat house bully, and they should go with that. But obviously whatever he's doing is working in at least one particular panty-peeling way. Jesus Christ, do women seem to like him. I don't get it, but he seems to be very attractive to the ladies.
So that's the reason Steffi hugged him last week after Randy Borton put a baseball-sized knot on her head a few years ago.
Possibly. Yeah, maybe he's the reason she's now pregnant. They haven't admitted it yet, but that woman looks very pregnant.
I thought that was confirmed that she was having trips. What is it? The third one?
Number 4.
They are really trying for that son. They are really trying.
You gotta get that little. You gotta get that little.
Penis.
King of Kings. Prince of Princes.
The Prince of Princes.
I think we've pretty much walked this one into the ground. We've walked a mud hole in it and stomped it dry.
Yeah, I think the only thing is, it is really too early to tell. And there's a lot of potential. It could be for it to be great or for it to be awful, but they do have something interesting.
I'll say one thing, totally unrelated to the main players here. The Shield has been reduced to bodyguards. Yep.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because that's the other thing I kind of have an issue about in this last minute. The fact that the mid-card right now is in another lull. Because you look at the SummerSlam card, for the most part, and there are feuds, but it didn't really matter who won those matches, Intergender, Rhodes, Sandow, Divas, Again, they need to not make the whole show about the McMahons. They need to focus on the mid-card again, and this Raw, tag matches, mostly irrelevant, that kind of thing,
Fully agree, and I guess we'll kind of get into that when we get into the Fair or Foul segment in the next segment, talking about the matches.
Which we will do right now, because that is time on the 15-minute time limit. So that means we're moving into segment 3. We're blowing through these segments at half the rate that we normally do, and it still feels like it's not taking as long. I guess time flies when you're having fun. So let's do What's the Story? What's going to happen here is I'm going to read a headline, and our esteemed panelists will try to make up a plausible story for it that isn't the actual story. Points are deducted for it being close to the real thing. So we'll start with Omega BR. Conan O'Brien mocks Wyatt family.
Well, I can only assume he mocked the Wyatt family because Luke Harper being afraid of fire, because you would think a guy with that much body hair would be used to being near large pits of flames.
What? All of my
body hair equals
Omega
fire. BR. Okay.
Well, I was trying to make like a
I'm assuming you were making a sort of a Vulcan in the Adventures of Baron Munchausen kind of reference.
Something like that.
I just took that shit uptown, folks. That's what I did there.
Because that's what Alice brings to the show. Class.
Class oozing out of every pore. It's coming out my ears.
Alright, so we'll just blow right through these and do alternating here. Alice, give us a plausible story that is not the actual story for Rowdy Roddy Piper strikes deal with
what was the
Klondike
actual
Bar.
story for Brian mocking the family?
That's a good point. What was the actual story for number one?
Oh, I don't know. I wrote this last week. What, did you think I was going to write a whole new segment for this week?
I don't
didn't
know
do a show
stuff.
last
All
week.
right. Okay, so the deal here is that Roddy Piper finally came up with the one thing he would do for a Klondike bar, and that was go on Celebrity Wipe Swap. That was the deal.
Oh, good Lord.
Did I win?
You have points added. We'll
Yay.
tally up the points at the end of the show, or at the end of the game here.
Oh, and by the way, he didn't actually get the Klondike bar. They totally stiffed him at the end. He didn't get any ice cream at all.
Well, now I'm sad. Net Jester.
Me too.
WWE Hall of Famer teased for WWE 2K14.
All right. So, as you know, over the past, there have been a great deal of many falling outs between Vince and certain WWE classic superstars, potential Hall of Famers if you stay on Vince's good side. One of the most unique returns to the WWE that I have heard rumored is a man who needs no introduction, so I'll just walk off stage. No, actually, he is a man who made a strong impact in the WWE with his illustrious manager. who was a mannequin head. This man was the leader of the Job Squad and a stupendous wrestler, and he was also one of the more unique individuals of the ECW era.
Is he in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think he is, not yet. But, hey, I wouldn't mind putting him there. And his manager!
Okay, no,
who I said
and
was a
negative
mannequin head.
points. Negative points. You have gone so far off track that I don't even know where to begin with all the things that are wrong with that. Yes, we know you're talking about Al Snow, but it was supposed to be about an actual WWE Hall of Famer, not just somebody who wanted to be in the Hall of Fame, and that they were teased for WWE 2K14. Let me give this a crack to show you what I'm talking about. WWE Hall of Famer Ric Flair was teased for his role in WWE 2K14, where his model looks like absolute crap. In fact, everyone who's seen him lately has been pointing and laughing because of the terribleness of the way that he was graphically reproduced.
I was going to say that they had actually tickled Bruno Sammartino with a feather. While he was reaching for his copy of 2K14, they're like, "Come on, man, take it," and then they just kept reaching out with like a really long feather. He giggles like a little girl.
Double points to Alice.
I win.
Omega BR. Lex Luger discusses PED use.
Lex Luger discusses PED use. I think in this case PED stands for Perfect Elliptical Device. Yes, he's on home television doing shills for exercise equipment.
I have one for this. What I think this is this should have been in lowercase. It's actually ped use. Peds are those little socks that you get when you go to try on new shoes. And they give you those little sort of like sample store socks. Those are peds. And he was just discussing the fact that he was recently purchasing a new pair of Birkenstocks, and they gave him some peds. Yeah. It was a really brilliant story.
I can only give you half points for that because Birkenstocks.
I wear Birkenstocks. They are comfortable, my friend. They are comfy. And if you live on the West Coast, as I do, you can wear flip-flops all year round. We are lucky.
Yeah, I don't much care for this game, I must say.
It's because you're losing.
Nobody, you know what? I was going to say nobody cares what you care about, but by God, Omega BR, you just made a decisive statement that you did or did not like something, or that something is or is not a certain way, and I am so impressed. I am awarding you double points.
If the game were about coming up with porn star names out of wrestler names, I would flourish.
Cock Lesnar.
And Alice
Take it easy, people. I'm eating.
All right, we've got one left. Ex-creative writer talks Vince McMahon, Benoit, Rio. Omega BR.
S&M Punk.
No. In this case, this was actually Court Bauer of the MLW podcast discussing a new pornographic film that he's come up with featuring a Vince McMahon, Benoit, and Del Rio three-way. Really, really hot story. Totes hot. Because as Cranky Vince would say, this was one for us, the bisexuals.
Again, you need to warn me of this stuff because I almost choked on my baked potato.
Hey, you're having a baked potato too? I'm having one as well. Right on.
Oh, cool. Simpatico.
Potato high five.
I'm tallying up the points here. Alice, I had to deduct 2 points from the last one. You mentioned Cranky Vince, but not the gorilla position. So I had to deduct 2 points. But adding these up...
What if I said that Billy Kidman will also be in this particular pornographic movie? He's finally conquered Mount Kidman. Thank you.
Check, please.
I'll give you 1 point back. And looking at this, it looks like Alice wins even though the points are actually non-existent, and I just made all of that up. So, let's get into Fair or Foul. I will read from the format here, a SummerSlam match, and our esteemed panelists, and I guess NetJester too, will tell us if the match was fair or foul, and their general impression of said match. Omega BR, the U.S. title pre-show match, Dean Ambrose, the reigning champion, versus Rob Van Dam. Fair or foul?
Suppose it was pretty fair for pumping the crowd up, which is what it was designed to do. That's it.
All right, and Alice.
This was an interesting one. I'm going to say Fowler. In the sense that it was a very good match, but it should not have been on the pre-show. There you go.
And NetJester.
Pretty much feel the exact same way of Alice. I'm a big fan of RVD, and I think he should have gotten bigger booking, but Dean Ambrose put some little oomph into the U.S. Championship and have it on later in the card. Fair match, foul placing.
Alrighty, and next up we have Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins versus Big Show and Mark Henry. Wait, that wasn't on the card. Who did this? Omega BR.
I corrected it. It's not my fault you copied from the incorrect version.
I didn't copy. This is the same format from last week. I just...
Boys, come on now.
How about Rob Van Ram?
No, I'm going to make this up.
Rob Van Dam.
You want some steam crates? You want some steam keys? I'm willing right about now.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I would.
Okay, so
anyway,
Kane versus Bray Wyatt in a Ring of Fire match.
Yeah. It was, I'm actually going to say it was fair, because it's basically an Inferno match, and Inferno matches are not very good, because once the novelty of the fire wears off, it's pretty much very limited stuff in the ring. But they did something I'd never seen before in an Inferno match, which, they put the blanket over the flames, they came in, they did the whole interference shtick, so, I think... Probably not the best choice for Wyatt's first match on TV, but I think it was, for what it was, I think they did what they wanted to do, so yeah, I'll say fair.
Alright, this is a match that I was trying to care about, because I'm a big Kane mark. They did okay, for what it was. With the Inferno match, there's not a whole lot you can do. I was kind of annoyed that they weren't trying to set each other on fire. For some reason, that match is just better when the flames are magic, and they don't flat out tell you that the reason the flames jump high when someone gets slammed into the mat is because there's a guy over there turning a knob. I don't know. If you take the mystery out of it, not so good. Also, King kind of ruined it for me, constantly saying asbestos blanket. They haven't made anything out of asbestos in over 30 years. I don't know what he was talking about.
Wash rag. That's what he was talking about.
I say wash rag. You don't even know. Tell us about the match.
Me? I would say this was foul, and I love Kane, and I love Bray Wyatt, and I thought this was beneath them. I thought this was a weak match. It watered down the Wyatt family storyline and sort of vibe. I realized this was just an excuse to get Kane off TV so he can go make a movie, and there are a million ways to do that. this was not the way. This is a kind of match that should be really special and a great novelty. I actually thought, oh shit, this is curtain jerking, great, they're going to really get us pumped up. The crowd was dead, it was dull, it was really, really unfortunate, and I was just kind of saddened by the whole thing. This, in the sense that it makes me feel like they are dropping the Wyatt family ball, because I have no idea where they go with them from here.
Certainly. I really think they should have had Way Bryant go over clean. Did I say Way Bryant? Bray Wyatt.
You just called him Way Bryant, yeah.
I was thinking Roy Barra, I guess. But anyways, he should have went over clean instead of them putting the asbestos blanket over the Flames. It just made them look weak, in my opinion.
So real quick, foul because of everything everybody just said, and that's about it. Let's move on.
I think they should.
If any of you say that the next match was fair, I'm going to find you and hurt you. Just want to say that.
I think they should have hung lanterns above each turnbuckle and made that the Ring of Fire.
Oh, a turnbuckle
A strap match. Where you, no, hear me out.
A Yappa Pie strap
and
match?
You have to turn. Yes, a Yappa Pie strap match, and you have to turn each lantern on in succession in the corners.
I feel like that's something I had to do once in a Legend of Zelda game.
Next match on the card was Brie Bella versus Natty. Oh!
But that wasn't the next match on the card, but the next match on our listing here.
Was it not? No, it wasn't.
The next match was Rhodes versus Sandow.
Indeedly, it was.
It
Verily.
was a good match.
Which one? Not Natalia versus Brie.
No.
You mean, okay, oh, thank God. I was about to
Rhodes
have
and
a fit.
Sandow was a good match.
Totally. But for this match, which one are we going to talk?
Let's do. Let's go in order of the card here. We'll go Rhodes and Sandow.
Shall I? Or is Omega going first? Rock it out, Omega.
Let's see. I'd say it was fair enough. You know, it was pretty standard. You know, I said earlier that most of these matches were kind of irrelevant, which is true. You know, Sandow could have easily won himself. But I think they busted out pretty decent effort. It was Cody showing off his athleticism again. And, you know, we can't really say too much more about it other than it was a fine match that kept things rolling.
Yeah, it was essentially, I mean, I would say fair, but it was a good match that meant nothing. I can't figure out if they just don't know what they're going to do here, or they don't care what they're going to do here. It's certainly one of the two. I don't mean the wrestlers, I mean the writers. I don't think they've given this a hell of a lot of thought. I can kind of sort of picture in my mind where they think this is going, but But the two of them can turn in a great match. They work really well together. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right. Next up on the card, let Omega finish copying and pasting here.
It was the world title match.
Yeah, it's ADR versus Christian, and I don't even think I actually watched that match.
I did.
Yeah, for a match that was really kind of unassuming on paper, they really busted out a really good effort, quite frankly. You know, they were really on their game. Some of the reversals, some of the corner work, and the story they told, too, with Christian's shoulder being worked the entire match, and that being the deciding factor when he speared Del Rio, but hurt himself in the process, allowing Del Rio to creep in the cross arm breaker, and of course, Christian not having the option when he couldn't get out of it but to tap. One of the better, a really great match, probably one of the best world title matches we've seen in a long time.
I'm going to go foul on this one. I couldn't figure out the point of this match. Is Christian retired now? Because they were showing these vignettes, which basically told you, Christian used to be good when Edge was around. If you guys remember Edge, He was fun, wasn't he? That was pretty much what the vignettes told me. And then he needs one more match, and he had his one more match, and he fucking lost. It's just like, I don't understand why this happened. And they
that part is foul.
Yeah, it was just sort of dreadful in that regard. That Christian looks like a skeleton. I'm absolutely convinced he's a Make-A-Wish kid, and that's how he got this match. And I mean, he's underweight and jaundiced.
Oh, he's 39 years old.
Yeah, well, you can be an older Make-A-Wish kid with a beard. He's underweight and jaundiced. He probably has some sort of liver problem. I'm assuming he's in full liver failure. Cena granted his wish and gave him a match. Very sweet. I want to fight for the World Heavyweight Championship. Well, you go get him, Slugger. And that's how this happened. Because obviously they know where they want to go with this title, at least for the time being, and that is Alberto Del Rio versus RVD. As we found out on Raw.
All right, and Net Jester, real quick, we're burning through these 45-minute segments. Real quick, Net Jester, ADR versus Christian.
I did like the match, but I am a Christian, Mark. I wish they'd do something a little bit more with him before he eventually decides to retire, and I hope it's not too soon, but I can see it in about a year or so.
All right, next up we have CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar.
We're just going to all go foul on the Divas match, right?
For Punk and Lesnar?
The Divas match happened before that. No. You're skipping. I
don't know what you're talking about.
Let me just twirl.
For you, by the way.
I'm twirling my mustache. Yes, I see what you did there. Very good. I'm not talking.
We all agree that Natty's talent is wasted, just absolutely wasted. She's a damn fine wrestler, and they're basically just wasting her on these models who aren't any good.
If I remember correctly, even during this match, I think Jerry or JBL, I think it was Jerry, said something to the effect of, Natty is so good, she could go up against a lot of the men in this company. I seem to remember him saying that on commentary, and I said, pretty much, and this is where she's at.
Would be
it is.
But like I said, we're burning through these 45-minute segments, so let's keep it moving. Punk and Lesnar, oh my God, what a barn burner that one was. Omega BR?
Well, what can you really say about it? They really found the way to make these two hang with each other, really. Punk, finding ways to take down the Beast, and even Lesnar had to kind of hang with Punk in this match, too, and he did his thing, which is pretty typical. They had the storyline of Punk wanting to go after Heyman, obviously. They made it no DQ, which I kind of wish they had announced that beforehand, but perhaps if it wasn't for the main event and what the main event ended up being, I would say this was probably going to be the best match on the card, but
This was my match of the night. This possibly might be my match of the year. I was by the end of it, I was exhausted. I'm not going to say I was sweaty. That would be hyperbole. But I was so into this and so enjoyed it and was cheering along. I was on the edge of my bed because I was laying in bed watching this. I was fully engaged and had mark out moments. I loved this. I don't know what else to say, but absolutely double, triple, quadruple, super fair.
They did make it a very good kind of back and forth in that you really didn't know who would win. You
didn't, and then when with that finish, it was like, it just kind of, I was all right with the finish too. I didn't really see it coming, and I was just super happy. I like it when I can't predict things. If I don't know what's going to happen, WWE is doing something right.
Exactly. Net Jester.
And real quick, yeah, this was fair, completely fairly and totally good match. Almost match of the night, if not for the very last match we will talk about. But where I'm also wondering where they go now with Lesnar. How long he's going to be off TV again because of his contract? If we'll only see him again during the next pay-per-view, and you know, same old stuff from
until WrestleMania when they decide who he will face, be it the Undertaker or whoever they end up picking.
In my heart of hearts, I really, really want it to be Brock versus Bryan. So take that for what you will.
That would be an excellent match, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, just you close your eyes and picture it. Yeah. Oh yeah. That looks good. That looks damn good. Yeah.
All right. So next up we have the intergender tag match. This match was pointless, useless. It was basically a cool-down match before the main event, which is,
the most disheartening thing. And that's it. There's no real rhyme or reason to this whole storyline other than, I guess, the whole breakup thing. But so what? Where's Ziggler going unless he's going to kind of stand by Bryan's side in this, versus McMahon thing?
I feel like they don't know what to do with these four people, so they're like, well, just, they're like, this is the Taco Bell of the WWE right now. It's like the same four ingredients that they mix together to make different food. And they are mixing these four people together sort of over and over and over again, slightly different combinations to make matches. And you go, oh, yeah, I think I'm going to go to the bathroom maybe, or get a taco would be nice right now. That's kind of what happens when you watch this match. Who went over? I don't remember. Was it the Faces? I don't care.
It was the Faces.
The same four ingredients of a Taco Bell. Oh, great. Now we'll be talking luchadors or whoever they are returning to the WWE.
Oh, shit. We really have to talk about that. We really, really have to talk about that. We don't have to do that right now, though, but write that down. Put that in the notes. We have to talk about that shit.
All right. Real quick, we've got 2 minutes left here.
Fortunately, we've already kind of really talked this one to death.
Yeah, we've already talked about Cena Bryan with special. We didn't really say a whole lot about the match, so let's just real quick go down the line. Just on a scale of 1 to 10, how awesome was that match, Omega BR?
5.
I'll give it a 5. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, I thought it was a solid 8.
I thought it was what I expected from these two. John Cena does usually rise to the level of whoever he's wrestling, and it was certainly very good, but having seen what I had seen earlier in the evening with Punk and Lesnar, there was no way they could top it. In terms of story, yes, they did more. In terms of work, no, not even close. It was good.
Honestly,
and you had an injured elbow in this match too, which they didn't even really. They talked about, but didn't really play up, of course, because it's genuinely injured. So there was a certain limitations to what Cena could do. But totally fair. I mean, it was a good match, but it was nowhere near close to the Punk Lesnar match. Mm-mm.
Honestly, I was making a riding the fence joke, but honestly, probably an 8 or 9 for me, just because. It wasn't a perfect match, but I think, given there was a lot more technical wrestling, I guess is the reason. There was a lot more chain wrestling than we're used to seeing, especially in a Cena match. And I think they did an okay job of, even though toward the end it kind of became finisher spam.
And Cena almost killed Bryan. Let's not forget that.
Oh yeah, he almost decapitated him in that bizarre sort of it was a weird sort of crab craziness. It was a mess. That was a disaster botch, and he doesn't usually do that. So I'm just kind of stunned by that. And also, for those of us who have seen the Velocity match that these guys had 10 years ago, there were a lot of repeated spots. Not a lot of this was fresh.
But that was 10 years ago. So,
but it's been circulating around. A lot of people had actually been watching this match recently because these two were going to be wrestling again. A lot of people went back and watched that horrible yellow outfit that Cena was wearing back in the day. Yellow sneakers too. Oh my God. So a lot of us had seen it recently. Anyway, sorry.
Well, with that, we've got 30 seconds left in the segment before we get cut off. We're going to go into yet another 45-minute segment. Good God, this show is running awesome tonight. So let's cut it off, and we'll be right back.
I wonder what's the difference.
With segment 4.
Yes, something has been slowing you guys down in previous weeks. I wonder what it is.